The Galactic soldiers arrived in waves, descending from the clouds in sleek, obsidian carriers that blotted out the sun over Earth's eastern seaboard. Their armor gleamed like polished stone, seamless and alien, their weapons pulsing with radiant energy that hissed at the touch of air. To them, Earth was not a battleground. It was a joke, a speck of dirt to be claimed by the inevitability of superior force. They laughed, loudly, openly. Mockery was part of their war doctrine. The laughter echoed through UN broadcasts and interstellar feeds, translated into a dozen human languages. Primitive species, they call humanity. Rifles, ballistic weapons, antiquated tools for an antiquated people. Their general spoke in condescending tones, confident that a planet still using gunpowder and metal bullets would fold in a matter of days. And maybe they weren't wrong to be confident at first. What they didn't know, what they couldn't understand from their data and scans and simulations, was that some humans had built their entire lives around the art of stillness, around patience, around precision, around making one shot matter more than 1,000. The Coalition's intelligence had dismissed Earth's sniper divisions as irrelevant, low threat, minimal tactical value. The file had read, a statistical oversight with fatal consequences. In the highland forests of Colorado, concealed beneath layers of brush, soil, and synthetic fiber, Staff Sergeant Dominic Reyes peered through a scope at the sky, tracking the descent of a scout vessel. He didn't speak. He rarely did. Words got in the way. He breathed, slow and shallow, the way he'd been trained since 19. His trigger finger lay beside the metal, not on it. Discipline. Patience. Beside him, Private Aria Cato adjusted a strip of camo netting. She was young, too young, Reyes sometimes thought, but sharp. She hadn't missed a single long-range qualification in over a year. She lay flat against the earth, letting the pulse of the ground dictate her rhythm. This was her first real deployment. There had been tension in her body on the hike-up, but here, under the camouflage, in the nest they'd built over 4 days without speaking, she was still. He respected that. I count 3 squads dispersing west and 1 recon drone, she whispered. Reyes nodded one slow, almost imperceptible movement, marked the commander. Let the others walk. Cato adjusted the scope on her suppressed M93. Their rifles were hand-tuned, old-world machines with glass optics and composite stocks. Tools of the bygone era, at least in the eyes of the Galactic soldiers. But here, in this chaos, they were poetry. Every bolt slide, every click of elevation adjustment, every silent breath was practice ritual. Elsewhere, the alien forces moved without caution. They believed themselves untouchable. Their footfalls were loud in the trees, amplified by servo-assist exoskeletons and arrogance. They didn't scan the tree leans. Why would they? No thermal readings. No movement. Just wind and silence. A week before the landing, Earth's Joint Defense Network had given its final, desperate orders. Do not engage directly. Withdraw where possible. Delay. Observe. Target only leadership and communication links. Let the Coalition underestimate us. The first town to fall had been in Saskatchewan. Emptied, street silent, signs still swinging in the wind. The aliens moved in without resistance, set up command tents, broadcast their presence. They didn't notice the glint on the ridgeline. They didn't hear the report suppressed, half swallowed by distance. The alien commander dropped mid-sentence, his helmet splitting where the round punched through reinforced polyglass. Blood of a violet hue pooled beneath his chin. His subordinates hesitated, looked up, then scattered, shouting commands in fractured dialects. Another fell seconds later. Then silence. The scouts began to question the terrain. That had been Reyes' shot. 1 bullet, 2 kills. No movement, no trace. Just wind, dirt, and silence. And now, in the foothills of the Rockies, they waited for the next mistake. Overhead, the alien scout ship hummed a low, metallic tone. Reyes adjusted his aim. His spotter tapped twice on the back of his hand. Confirmation. Cato had the angle. She would take the shot. He watched her exhale slowly. Her gloved finger pressed down, smooth and deliberate. The commander on the ridge below, flanked by 2 sentries, paused mid-step. The sound was almost nothing. A pop, a distant twig snap. Then he collapsed. The sentries turned, weapons raised. Reyes watched, measuring their panic. They fired into the tree line, wild bolts carving molten holes into bark and stone. No targets, no silhouettes, just trees. The aliens had sensors, yes. Heat mapping, biodetection, magnetic resonance scans. But Earth snipers had something else. Years in the field, learned in deserts, mountains, and jungles, blending with the rain, avoiding drones, waiting for the breath between beats. They weren't hunters. They were ghosts. A voice crackled over Reyes' earpiece. Colonel Nakamura from Central Command. Phantom units report 2 additional kills in Zone Delta. Confirmed sniper pattern. Repeat, confirmed sniper pattern. Reyes tapped the mic twice. Confirmation. Cato smiled faintly. They're starting to notice. They're starting to die, Reyes replied. Across the continent, similar stories played out. Snipers embedded in snowy ridgelines in Norway, in the broken shell of Paris, on rooftops in Sao Paulo. No direct engagements, no flashy victories, just a steady rhythm of kill shots and vanishing trails. The aliens didn't understand it yet. Their minds sought patterns, rules, cause and effect. But this was chaos. This was war as Earth had known it, centuries before the stars ever noticed the blue marble. Back at their makeshift observation post, Reyes lowered his scope. The alien squad was retreating now, dragging their officer's body with them, scanning the sky instead of the trees. Cato rechecked her bolt, reloaded slowly, carefully, without sound. Think they'll call for backup? She asked. They'll call for an explanation first, Reyes said. They won't get one. High above, the Coalition's orbiting warships repositioned slightly, as if unsure whether to fire or watch. Something had shifted. The math wasn't adding up. Soldiers weren't supposed to die without engagement. Commanders weren't supposed to drop mid-sentence. And on Earth, in the dirt and wind, the snipers waited, silent and patient, ghosts with rifles older than stars. The war had begun, not with explosions, but with questions, and with fear. The alien commander's body crumpled soundlessly to the forest floor, a clean hole bored through his cranial plate just above the left optic node. His lieutenant stared, dumbfounded. A few seconds passed, just long enough for their minds to reject what their eyes insisted was true. Then panic detonated like a minefield. Shouts and sharp, staccato clicks. Scrambled radio bursts. They spun in place, energy rifles sweeping tree lines, scanning the canopy, the soil, the sky. But nothing moved. Nothing replied. Just a whine of distant wind through pine branches. Private Arya Cato watched through her scope, her breath shallow. The trigger still buzzed faintly beneath her finger, the echo of release lingering like a ghost. One shot, one kill. She blinked slowly, consciously slowing her heartbeat. Her pulse was steady, not with arrogance but with clarity. She had trained for this, imagined this moment 1,000 times. The Coalition soldiers had expected resistance in the form of mobs, militia, or missiles. They weren't prepared for silence and death arriving in the same breath. Staff Sergeant Reyes gave a slight nod beside her. His eyes remained on the second-in-command, now barking orders into a comlink embedded in his gauntlet. A response came almost immediately, a high-pitched burst of static, then a curt command. Satellite scan initiated. Perimeter sweep activated. A half-dozen aerial drones whirred to life and took to the sky. Cato whispered, "Drones? 5 at least. Vectors southeast." Reyes replied without looking up, "Let them come. They won't find heat. Not here." Their sniper nest was buried deep beneath layers of thermally insulated material. Their body heat diffused through a network of dampened exhaust flaps that mimicked ambient temperature. The suits they wore blended seamlessly with the foliage, heat-resistant light scattering and absurdly mundane in their construction. To the aliens' eyes, there were no humans here, just rocks, moss, trees. In the skies above, the drones buzzed in increasingly erratic loops. Their processors scanned for anomalies, cross-checked motion patterns, tried to isolate angles of incidence. But no projectile had been detected, no trajectory, no origin, just one result: a dead commander. The new officer on the ground issued a sharp command. and the squad pulled back in a tight diamond formation. Their armor hissed and locked with each step. As they retreated, one of them paused, turning back toward the ridgeline, raising his weapon uncertainly. Cato saw it, eyes on. Left flank. He's looking. Reyes tilted his scope, squinting. He's guessing. A long moment passed. The soldier kept staring, unnerved. And then, without warning, he fired. A bolt of plasma carved a smoldering line across the treetop above them. Bark exploded. Smoke curled upward. Debris showered silently over the nest. Neither Reyes nor Cato flinched. They remained still, waiting, watching. "No discipline," Reyes muttered. "They're scared." Across the quadrant, reports began to trickle in, encrypted whispers on the human resistance network. Another kill confirmed in Utah. 2 more in the outskirts of Berlin. Every sniper nest was following protocol. Isolate leadership, disrupt cohesion, leave the survivors guessing. The directive was simple: become myth. In the Coalition's command vessel, orbiting silently above the planet, General Cass TTL reviewed the tactical feed with a furrow in his brow. 3 commanders lost in less than 2 hours. Minimal enemy contact. No confirmed engagements. The ground reports were inconsistent. Soldiers speaking of vanishing targets, impossible angles, moments of sudden death. He tapped a clawed finger against the holomap. "This is not resistance," he growled to his adjutant. "This is illusion. They want us afraid." His adjutant, younger and still flushed with the confidence of a recent promotion, replied too quickly. "Then we flood them with fire. Scorch forests. Level everything." TJL turned to him, eyes narrowing. "And kill what? Trees? Ghosts? If we blind fire into every shadow, we waste energy and time. No, we need patterns, predictive logic. Assign the Predator AIs. Let them isolate the method." But the Predator AIs found nothing. They traced possible flight paths based on the dead commander's entry wounds. No solutions. They triangulated angles. Impossible data. In every model, the bullet trajectories required line-of-sight positions that did not exist. In sidewalls beneath Earth, through solid rock, the AIs labeled the results contradictory. The term itself was an admission of failure. Back on Earth, Cato checked her rifle, cleaned the bolt, and reset the next round with soft, practiced motion. She didn't smile. There was no joy in it. Only purpose. Only the work. "Reyes," she said softly. "How long until they stop laughing?" He didn't answer right away. The alien squad was gone now, vanished into the deeper woods, calling in scans, requesting reinforcements, leaving their commander behind. The corpse still lay in a clearing of ferns, steam rising from the opening in his helmet. Reyes finally spoke. "They stopped laughing when the first body hit the ground. They just don't know it yet." The radio hissed quietly in his ear. "Command update. For confirmed sniper kills across 3 regions. Coalition forces rerouting troop movements. Urban zones now considered high risk." Fear, Reyes thought, was the most reliable weapon Earth had left. They were feeding it one trigger, pull at a time. As dusk fell, the forest turned violet and blue with fading light. The drones had retreated. The birds returned cautiously. The wind shifted. Reyes leaned back slightly and drank from a tube in his chest rig. It tasted like copper and dirt, the taste of survival. He offered a hand signal to Cato, "Rest cycle." She nodded but didn't move. Her eye remained on the scope. Down in the valley, far beyond the line of fire, a new cluster of troops disembarked from another transport. Reyes marked them without emotion. They were coming, more confident than the last. More targets. He looked at Cato. Her breathing was steady again, her expression unreadable. But there was a fire behind her eyes now, controlled, disciplined, but real. "They'll come harder next time," she said. "They always do," he replied. "And they'll fall harder, too." And above them, the night deepened, pulling a curtain of shadow over mountains. Earth held its breath, silent and still, while somewhere in the dark, another sniper chambered around. The war had begun in earnest. At first, The coalition believed the sniper attacks were isolated, rogue elements, perhaps outliers in a disorganized defense. They considered the humans clever, dangerously so, but still primitive. They responded with escalation. Thermal drones were reconfigured to scan deeper frequencies. Ground units deployed resonance cannons to shake loose concealed positions. And yet, for every new tactic introduced, another officer fell with a whisper of air and a crack of bone. Staff Sergeant Reyes had already shifted nests twice since the last kill. He moved with the rhythm of the wind, the pulse of soil, leaving nothing behind but disturbed moss and a faint trace of breath. Cato followed, quieter now than she had been days before, shaped by experience and fatigue into something sharper. They didn't speak unless necessary. The forest carried sound too well. Each night, they received updates through encoded bursts, brief, fragmented reports from other sniper teams, names of cities, coordinates of kills. The pattern was forming, not on maps or holograms, but in the minds of those lying in the dirt, watching the stars. A symphony of distance and precision. Humans who had never met one another now moved in rhythm, bound by shared silence and iron discipline. The aliens tried to adapt. Their infantry began walking in tighter formations, shields overlapping, helmets redesigned with rear-facing optics. Still, it didn't matter. The shots came from angles they hadn't predicted, from the tops of dead trees, from underneath broken asphalt, from drainage tunnels they hadn't thought to scan. They began to call it phantom fire. Their commanders were no longer issuing orders in the open. Meetings were held underground. Soldiers whispered. Paranoia took root. Reyes observed it all through the glass of his scope. On the third day, he watched as a patrol spent 20 minutes circling a parked civilian car, unsure if it was a decoy. It wasn't, but the fear made them late to rendezvous, and by the time they arrived at their outpost, the officer assigned to receive them was dead, shot through the eye during a mid-transmission address. The kill had come from another team, Reyes knew, but it felt like his. They were all linked now, invisible threads stretching between distant hills and ruined cities. Every sniper knew their kill zones and their fallback routes. They adjusted fire schedules and coordinated timings. No direct orders, just a shared understanding of how to make giants bleed. Private Cato began keeping a small notebook, not of kills. Those were mentally cataloged, etched into memory, but of habits. She wrote down how the coalition soldiers walked, how long they scanned after each step, how their drones loitered before rising. Behavior gave away intent, and intent could be turned into opportunity. "They're moving slower," she said one evening, low voice as they watched from a ruined farmhouse. "More deliberate. Watching too much, not acting." "They're waiting for us to make a mistake," Reyes replied. "That's the mistake." The war was no longer fought in broad daylight. It had become a contest of nerves. Time favored the humans. The longer the aliens remained uncertain, the more ground they ceded in spirit. Some patrols stopped entering buildings altogether. Others fired randomly into the dark, exhausting their rifles, hoping to flush out phantoms. And sometimes, when a coalition soldier fell, his comrades left the body behind. It was quicker, safer. Their bond, so absolute at first, was fracturing. They began to envy the humans' invisibility, to fear it. One evening, deep in the ruins of a power station outside Lisbon, Reyes and Cato watched an alien officer scream at his troops. Through a high-powered lens, they could see the spittle in the corners of his mouth, the tension in his fists. His squad stood rigid, unwilling to look him in the eyes. Then he turned, and a shot from a neighboring rooftop took him through the throat. His soldiers scattered without a word, not even a return volley. Cato adjusted her sight. That was the Ruiz team. Reyes grunted in acknowledgement. They're getting bold. They're getting surgical. Elsewhere, a different kind of pressure was building. In orbit, the coalition command debated strategies that would have been unthinkable a week ago. Scorched Earth, tactical disintegration zones. They had the power to reduce Earth's surface to glass. But such an act would be an admission of failure. The Galactic Charter prohibited total annihilation of habitable worlds without confirmed existential threat. And so, the generals hesitated. Among the aliens, Rumors began to circulate that Earth had unlocked psychic warfare, that its soil held sentient spirits, that the humans had trained their dead to shoot from beyond. Back in the field, the sniper said nothing, let them believe in ghosts. The work took its toll. Reyes had barely slept in 3 days. His shoulder ached from a poorly set firing angle during a 16-hour watch. Cato was down to her last suppressor canister, using moss to muffle the barrel's heat signature. They rationed protein paste and drank rainwater caught in leaves. There was no time to complain, only to adjust, to improve, to endure. As dawn bled to the horizon, they broke down their nest for the 6th time and moved eastward. The next operation zone was a railway line leading into a captured logistics hub. Coalition forces had fortified it, layered it with turrets and drones. A kill zone for conventional troops. But no one would be storming it. Reyes knelt behind a broken signal post, unfolding a topographic map. Cato crouched beside him, tracing the edge of the hills with her finger. "Line of sight here," she said, "but wind will complicate the shot." "We'll compensate." She didn't argue. They were both too tired for wasted words. From somewhere distant, a single shot echoed, a low, muffled report. Another sniper. Another lesson. Reyes folded the map. "They'll bring more tomorrow." Cato stood, rifle slung low. Let them come. Together, they vanished into the trees once more, the earth reclaiming them with each step. Behind them, the battlefield waited, growing quieter with every pulse of fear. The alien still hadn't learned the truth. This wasn't Earth's final stand. It was its opening statement. Rain fell in quiet sheets, steady and cold, soaking to the canopy and turning the forest floor into a patchwork of mud, roots, and slippery stone. The world was muted, as though the sky itself had gone silent in anticipation. Overhead, clouds rolled like bruises across the horizon. The snipers had moved before dawn. No fire, no light, no sound, just breath and motion, inches at a time. Reyes lay prone beneath the twisted skeleton of a collapsed communications tower, a nest of rusted steel girders shielding him from drone optics. His rifle tracked a convoy below, a slow-moving line of coalition hover trucks crawling through the ravine like wounded animals. One of the lead vehicles sputtered, its grav systems unstable. Blue sparks flickered as 2 engineers dropped beneath the chassis, arguing in sharp, guttural tones. Around them, the security detail formed the perimeter, rifles ready, visors scanning, armor-plated and seamless, but they moved with the tension of those expecting death, not delivering it. Reyes's trigger finger hovered over the guard, still impatient. He wasn't looking at the engineers. He was tracking the officer pacing behind them, a tall, 4-armed Allery with silver facial markings and a glinting control badge near his throat. A logistics overseer, the one responsible for supply lines across the entire western sector. "Winds drifting east, 9 knots, Reyes murmured into his mic. "You got eyes?" "I see him," Cato replied, voice flat through the calm. She was posted half a click uphill, a shadow behind a crumbled retaining wall. "I've got a cleaner angle. Waiting on your green." The officer raised a hand, gesturing toward the perimeter. His torso turned slightly, revealing a strip of exposed armor seam at the neck. That was all Cato needed. Reyes gave the nod. "Send it." The report was soft, little more than a hiss beneath the rain. The effect was immediate. The Allery dropped mid-motion, limbs twitching, blood spraying in rhythmic arcs. Around him, the escort froze, then burst into chaos. Plasma fire lanced into the trees, but the humans were already gone, ghosts again, vanishing between shadows. They retreated north, moving through gullies and ravines until their lungs burned. When they finally paused, nestled behind a boulder overlooking a ravaged transport line, Reyes leaned into the scope again. "That makes 20 confirmed logistics officers in the last week. Too many to replace," Cato muttered, peeling back the seal of a ration packet. "They'll start eating each other soon." The snipers were no longer just hunting for kills. They were dismantling infrastructure. Each shot severed nerve, and with every nerve cut, the coalition bled coordination. Patrols grew erratic. Communications stuttered. Morale plummeted. Alien soldiers began refusing assignments in rural sectors. Even drones lag in response times, their operators growing more hesitant with each passing day. The resistance was no longer scattered. There were now 72 confirmed sniper cells operating worldwide. Many had never spoken. They didn't need to. Their bullets spoke for them, clean, silent punctuation marks on a once confident invasion. At dusk, Reyes tuned into the scrambled feed from the upper orbital bands. Coalition chatter had spiked. Another general was dead. No one knew who fired the shot, only that it pierced 2 inches of reinforced alloy visor at 900 meters, and that the general's final words had been, "They're here." It wasn't fear alone gripping the aliens anymore. It was doubt. Above Earth, in the vast orbiting fortress Vrashtun, General Cass TDL loomed over a digital holomap of the conflict zone. Red markers blinked across the continents. Commanders lost, vehicles sabotaged, bases compromised. He had never seen such disarray in a campaign this small. The humans had no spacefaring fleet, no orbital support, no centralized government left worth naming. And yet, they were winning by inches, wounds, and whispers. One of his sub-commanders suggested deploying orbital clean sweep bombardments, eradicating entire grid sectors from orbit. Another proposed atmospheric disruption, fields to destroy all thermal signatures. But THAL knew better. They weren't fighting an army. They were fighting a myth in the making. Every overreaction only fed the legend. They have become the weapon. THAL growled. They do not resist. They hunt. Back on the ground, Reyes and Cato prepared for the next strike. Their destination, a coalition logistics hub nestled in the skeleton of a former human airport. The base was ringed by 3 drone towers, with overlapping fields of vision and automated sentry turrets along the landing pads. It would have been a death trap for a full assault, but it wasn't going to be assaulted. It was going to be watched, bled, crippled. Reyes unfolded the topographic map and pointed to a blind spot just east of the shuttle pads. High ground here. Overlooks the command tower. We dig in tonight. No movement until the next officer makes an appearance. Cato nodded. And if he doesn't, he will. They always do, the moment they think it's safe. The nest took hours to prepare. They camouflaged the blind with layers of moss, soil, and carbon mesh to scatter thermal scans. Every inch of equipment was checked, silenced, dusted. They lay still beneath the storm, bodies flat, minds locked into the geometry of violence. Just before dawn, lights flared in the command tower. A figure emerged, flanked by armored guards, a Bastion-class officer. High blood, the same one from the transmissions. Reyes adjusted his lens. Bastion confirmed. 600 meters. Exposed balcony. He's speaking. Cato's scope settled. He dies talking. The alien raised his arms, voice amplified to the base's speakers, declaring something in a booming, guttural dialect. Promises of retribution. Glory. Power. Cato didn't care what he said. She fired. The Bastion dropped instantly, neck shattered, speech cut short mid-phrase. Panic surged through the outpost. Troops scrambled for cover. Drones surged upward, scanning for ghosts they would never find. Reyes and Cato crawled back into the storm. The clouds swallowed them again. No medals, no cheers, just the rhythm of rain and the silence of fear doing its work. And high above, even the stars seemed to retreat. Earth was not conquered. It was still loading its rifle.